Hong Kong government suspends divisive extradition bill. Slideshow by Photo Services. Hong Kong's embattled leader on Saturday said a divisive bill that would allow extraditions to China would be suspended in a major climb down from her government after a week of unprecedented protests. The city's pro-Beijing leader Carrie Lam has come under huge pressure to abandon the controversial legislation, including from her own political allies and advisors. The international finance hub was rocked by the worst political violence since its 1997 handover to China on Wednesday as tens of thousands of protesters were dispersed by riot police firing tear gas and rubber bullets. As criticism mounted, signs also emerged of a growing discomfort among Communist Party leaders in Beijing, and Lam held her press conference Saturday at the same government complex that was besieged by protesters earlier in the week. The South China Morning Post said Lam held an emergency meeting on Friday night with her advisors, while Chinese officials were also meeting in the nearby city of Shenzhen to map a way out of the impasse. Tensions were running high with protest organizers planning another mass rally on Sunday. Lam, who is appointed by a committee stacked with Beijing loyalists, had previously refused to consider abandoning the bill, despite months of criticism from business and legal bodies in a record-breaking rally on Sunday where organizers said more than 1 million protesters hit the streets. On Friday, she found herself facing growing calls from within her own political camp to reverse course and tamp down spiraling public anger, including from hardline pro-Beijing lawmakers. Shouldn't. But others have warned against Lam bending to the protesters. Opposition to the extradition bill has united an unusually wide cross-section of Hong Kong. Protest organizers had been calling for a full withdrawal of the bill, not a postponement. James Tu, a lawmaker from the city's pan-democrat camp, called on Lam to step down. Beijing has vocally supported the bill and earlier this week threw its full support behind the Lam administration, calling protesters rioters. But it has since sought to distance itself as public anger spiraled. On Friday night, thousands of parents gathered in a park in the heart of the city's commercial district to condemn the use of rubber bullets and tear gas against predominantly young protesters on Wednesday. Chan, a fifth.
Raindrops.